Welcome, Wisdom Café community. I am talking today with Na'ilah Nasir, the new Vice Chancellor for Equity and Inclusion here at UC Berkeley. Good morning, Na'ilah.
Good morning.
Thank you for sitting down with me today to share your leadership story. You've been connected to Berkeley in many different capacities.
Yeah.
As an undergraduate student, as a faculty member and department chair, as a faculty resident in the residence halls, the daughter of a staff member, and the mother of an alum. How have all these connections and experiences prepared you for this big new role you're taking on as Vice Chancellor of Equity and Inclusion?
That's a good question. I think that what the multiple relationships to Berkeley does for me is it gives me a perspective on the ways different kind of contingencies of campus are experiencing it. So I think about my mom a lot in my relationships with staff because she's actually in a faculty support position, so she's very gracious and very good at what she does, but she often gives me insight into how staff are experiencing our processes, our practices, interactions with them that I just wouldn't have otherwise. As a parent of a Berkeley student, I kind of came firsthand to understand how students experience the institution now in ways that were really different than I experienced it then. For instance, my daughter felt really pressed to declare a major. And I was like, what? Just relax, enjoy the ride. Why are you? She said, Mommy, I can't get into any classes. I was like, oh. So there are ways in which I think we sometimes have, there are these default ways our institutional structures operate on people that it's hard to understand without some kind of firsthand knowledge. So I think that those multiple relationships with the campus just help you kind of understand that everybody's not having the same experience. And sometimes as faculty or as administrators, you sit in a place of privilege, and it can be hard to see that while your position is privileged, everybody around you is not experiencing that same privilege. So it's kind of humbling.
So what defining moments have occurred in your life and or career, and how have they shaped you?
I don't know if I have. I guess a defining moment was coming to Berkeley, and I was at another institution where I was very happy, and I came to Berkeley for a number of reasons, both personal and professional. But that marked, I think, a shift in my career and became the beginnings of what would be a kind of trajectory into leadership. And I came to Berkeley because of what was then called the BDRI, the Berkeley Diversity Research Initiative. And I had been, I'd lived in the East Bay, most of my life, and was living in the East Bay, commuting down to the South Bay. And I did that every day for, 7 or 8 years. And during that time, people had said, well, you should apply for a position at Berkeley. And I was like, I don't want to go to Berkeley. Berkeley's not doing anything interesting around the kinds of things I care about. And then they were. And I thought, wow, what an amazing opportunity to be a part of this initiative that at the time was the Diversity Hiring Initiative, but was bringing together folks who were studying race, culture, ethnicity, and inequality from, various corners of campus to really build something collaborative. And that was really exciting for me. So I think coming to Berkeley and becoming a part of the BDRI marked for me the beginning of thinking institutionally and thinking about institutional change and thinking about how you build something collective where the whole is more than kind of the sum of the parts. So that was kind of a defining moment. I think another defining moment was becoming department chair of African American Studies, because it wasn't something I aspired to. Leadership wasn't something I aspired to. It just kind of was presented to me, and I got convinced by one of my colleagues who's now retired that I was the best person for this job, and in retrospect, he was a very convincing person. I think he did a number on me. But beginning to see myself as somebody who could be out front. I tend to be a person who hangs in the background. That's where I'm naturally comfortable. At cocktail parties, I'd much rather be like serving food than making conversation with strangers. So that was kind of the beginning of thinking about, well, maybe I do have something interesting to say, interesting to add. And I think it was about that same time that I I started a Twitter account, and I started tweeting.
I follow you on Twitter.
Do you?
Yes.
And I did that as a very conscious way to be okay putting my opinions out there, because I tend to be very, I like to make peace. I like things to be conciliatory. And so I didn't like the idea of being out front and having people, kind of watching me or being oppositional to me or disagreeing with me. And so the Twitter was kind of a way to pull myself into a space where it's okay to express strong opinions. It's okay to have people who disagree with you. It's okay to be out front. So that's definitely been a journey.
Well, it's been interesting to follow you because when I heard you speak, I thought that you had a lot of interesting things to say, and that's when I started to look at your what you were saying on Twitter, and you post some interesting and provocative things. I think that's maybe a luxury faculty have more than staff always feel, that they have
that's
that ability to
true.
Speak out and say controversial things.
That's probably true. But at the same time, if we don't say what we believe, then what are we doing? What are we doing here? So I think there's a fine line there, right?
Yes.
Obviously. But I think one of the deep realizations for me about that was that we all come with a unique perspective and something to add. And if we don't add that thing that's our special, unique thing to add, then we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing here.
Well, I love hearing you say that because I very much agree with that. So as you look back, what core beliefs have guided your choices and actions?
I guess a core belief that that everybody's important, right? In a system, whether you have formal high-ranking status in that system or not, everybody's actually equally important in a system. That's been a set of beliefs that has guided me. And that people act rationally, right? So if somebody's doing something as a part of an organization that you're a part of, and you don't understand why they're doing it, or it seems weird or crazy or out of line, it's because you don't understand the context. People tend to behave rationally. And so given what they've been through, what they've experienced before, that gives rise to whatever, the kind of actions that are presenting themselves. So your job is to kind of understand that and create a system that is safe and nurturing for people. So I think that, this is maybe cliche, but, people say leadership is about service. I really, really believe that what it means is carrying the responsibility to create a system that is safe and healthy for the people in it. Like that's the core kind of part of the job.
Because you don't always know the context.
Right. Yeah, and if things don't make sense, it's because you don't know the context.
Okay.
Well, I think that encapsulates what I think leadership is, creating safe and healthy spaces for people, and spaces that develop people's full potential. Because I think a lot of times, both with respect to students and staff and faculty, when the system's not healthy, people disengage or partially disengage or don't bring their full self to the endeavor. And then that's a loss, right? So I think helping to create environments where people can bring all of their good energy and unique skills and feel valued for those things is a core part of leadership.
Great.
And the other part I would say,
No, that's great.
is I think about helping people come to a collective vision. So I'm not one of those people that thinks I have all the answers and I'm going to tell everybody the great things that they should be doing, but rather I think the task of a leader is to harness the energy and wisdom and expertise and experiences of the people that you're working with to bring the group to kind of a collective vision and agenda for moving forward.
So that would suggest that it involves listening.
Yes.
A lot of listening.
Yes.
Okay. I know you haven't started the role yet. You're about to formally start it in a couple of weeks. What do you expect to be the most rewarding and the most challenging aspects of this new job?
Well, I guess I would start with the most rewarding. And I've been kind of phasing in, so it's an interesting, middle ground right now where I'm still doing some of the things I was doing before and wrapping things up, but also, digging into this new work in many kinds of ways. I think what's rewarding about it is the opportunity to build something that does the kinds of things I was just talking about. I mean, I think that working on issues of equity and diversity and inclusion on this campus is some of the most important work we need to be doing right now. Because it matters for people's lives. It matters for how they experience this place, you know, again, from all different angles. It matters for what that means for where they go from here. So I think the work itself is really, really important. And there's some amazing things happening already on this campus. And just so many people on campus are doing such heartfelt, amazing things for students and for staff and for faculty that it's really exciting to work with those folks and build on that work. I think what's challenging is it's a lot of hats to wear. And there's just so many pieces to it. You know, there's kind of the outward facing, kind of speaking to the world parts of it. There's the inward facing, building a division or keeping a division functional parts of it.
Management.
Right. And then there's all of the ways various folks on campus need and want support and somebody to see what they're doing. And so I think juggling all of those different hats is going to be a little bit of a challenge. And to feel like I'm doing that effectively.
You've said that you want to make institutions more humane places. In what ways can you imagine doing that specifically for staff here at Berkeley?
I think the issues are so big for staff at Berkeley. One, because we're a big, bureaucratic, slightly impersonal institution. Right? Two, because in many places of campus, there just aren't that many opportunities for advancement without coming out of your job title. And I think it's a fundamental structural issue that I don't know how we make big progress without working on that, a way for people to advance and get raises and feel like they're being seen and valued and their work is being valued. But I do think sometimes our structures work against people putting in their full effort. There's a way in which we reward being good enough. And it's our structures that do that. So where if people are really going overboard, giving their best and giving their all, there are very few ways we have to recognize them. And so there are some ways we have to recognize them, but I think it's a structural issue that we need to figure out.
That's a very complex one.
It is a very complex one. There's another part to this which has to do with the interpersonal interactions that staff experience, and I think too often those are not as respectful as they should be, particularly in relation to faculty and probably at times in relation to students. So I think part of that is building better communities and having communities where it's understood that everybody has a valued place, that some of us are not more valuable than others actually, and that actually without staff the entire university would fall apart very quickly. And so, you know, how do we if we believe that and if we know that, how do we live that? And how do the structures support the knowing of that? And how do we help folks be a part of functional, supportive communities in their units? That's not very specific because I don't know yet how to do that. And they're, you know, and the numbers are huge. I mean, I think the conference you all do is probably one part of that helping folks feel a part of a community that recognizes them, that supports them. I think that's really important, especially when the financial constraints are so pressing.
So you talked earlier, it comes back to what you said in the beginning about everyone is equally important. So it's helping people actually know and feel that.
Right.
If you were to sit down today with a young new staff member, what advice would you give to that person as they start their career?
I guess two things are coming to mind at once. One is to listen, right? To listen, you know, in any complex situation, there are multiple stakeholders with multiple agendas and reads on things. When you're coming new to a situation, the most important thing there is to do is to learn the culture of the place that you are coming into and who the kind of actors are and what they need. Right? I think one of the ways to make yourself really valuable in an organization is to see what the organization needs and what the people in it need and be a part of providing that. I would also say to hold on to the part of them that makes them who they are. You know, that I think sometimes we feel like we have to sacrifice the thing that we really love to do this job that might not be totally aligned with what we envision for ourselves or how we see ourselves. And I think the trick is to find ways to be fully yourself and do the job really effectively. And I guess the other thing I think is to engage the work with joy. That even if it's, you know, not there, we all will have parts of our jobs that are more fun and parts that are less fun. But to, you know, that kind of Buddhist principle of like finding the joy even in the kind of mundane tasks.
When your career is complete, and I hope that's not for a long time, what would you want people to remember you for? What are you most proud of?
I think about that a lot, actually, and I know it's because I've lost several grandparents in the last few years, and so, you know, there's all these funerals, right? And funerals are a time when people think, you know, they give voice to whatever it was they appreciated about you or what they experienced with you, and so I guess I want for people to feel like I mattered in helping them be happier and more whole. And I think that's both professional and personal. You know.
What are you most grateful for?
I am really grateful for all of it. I never you know, my aspiration when I was an undergrad here was to be a kindergarten teacher.
Really?
That was my plan.
Detour.
So everything else that's happened is like, oh, wow, how about that? So I'm grateful for the opportunity to touch as many people as I'm able to touch. I'm tremendously grateful for my family and, you know, to be a parent. I have 4 kids who are all wonderfully amazing, unique people. And I'm grateful for the insight that it gives me to be raising 4 kids and working. And, you know, one of the emails I got that really struck me when I got the position, and people wrote just lovely things, but one person wrote, "I'm really glad to see a working mother in this position."
Oh,
and I thought, wow, I didn't know that I represented that for people, but that's kind of cool. You know, so I've been saying that a lot, just so that, to try to, you know, do that woman proud. And I'm grateful for my colleagues. I'm grateful to be working with our provost, Claude Steele. I think he's got a great vision for the campus, and I'm excited to be a part of it.
Well, thank you so much for the time you've taken and these great insights that you've offered us this morning. Thank you.
It's great talking with you.